Chapter 21:16. Caught off guard, Dustless was hugged tightly. Night Sword God Tosin also squeezed hard, as if she wanted to merge Dustless into her body. The sudden attack was inexplicable, and Wu Chen was also a little stuffy for a moment. Her eyes were fixed on Nightblade God 10 fragrance until her breathing became difficult, and the girl then turned her head. Staring at the perfect silhouette in front of him, Dustless said unhappily, "Tosin, if you really like me, you should let me go immediately." Night Sword God Tosin was stunned at first, then asked in confusion, "It's because I care about you that we should get closer, right? That's what the people in school said. So it was those fujoshis who taught you that." Hearing this, Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He knew that there was a weird fujoshis trio in Lai Chan High School. In the original work, they were the ones who came up with ideas to help Tosin conquer Gohei Shido. "But you're about to strangle me." Dustless's breathing became unnatural. His cheeks were slightly red and filled with embarrassment. He looked at Night Sword God Tosin speechlessly. Sorry, I'll let go now." Night Sword God Tosin smiled embarrassedly and quickly let go of Dustless. She scratched her head and smiled. "I was too excited just now and only cared about you, so I forgot. It won't be like this next time." Dustless just rolled his eyes. If he was a normal human, he would probably be dead now. After all, Night Sword God Tosin hadn't sealed the power of the elves yet. Her power was unreliable. "Cut the crap. Tell me what you want." Dustless waved his hand and stared at Night Sword God Tosin, who was only wearing a bathrobe. Since this little girl wasn't here to take a bath, then she must have some other purpose for coming to him in a bathrobe. "Can't I come to you for no reason?" Nightblade God 10 fragrance looked at Dustless with dissatisfaction. Her big, watery eyes stared at Dustless. Dustless could hear the deep resentment in her words clearly. Her beautiful eyes stared at Dustless. Finally, Nightblade God 10 fragrance smiled and hugged Dustless's right arm. "Let's sleep together. It's more intimate. Cordial." Dustless rolled his eyes when he heard this. He was sure that someone else had instigated Night Sword God Toka to do this. Such an innocent girl was easily tricked. "That's enough. You still need to go to school tomorrow. Go back to sleep now." Dustless stared unblinkingly at the young girl who was crawling on top of him. Being pressed down, he couldn't help but feel a little strange in his heart. "Are you looking down on me? You were fine when you were with Kotori, so why did you change your mind when it came to me? Also, you said before that Kotori kissed you. Now." Nightblade God 10 fragrance looked at Dustless with a mischievous smile. Her eyes were shining. She pointed at her own face and said in an abnormally serious tone, "You have to kiss me too." Hearing this, Dustless looked at Nightblade God 10 fragrance with even more hesitation. He knew that this girl was very aggressive and wouldn't give up easily until she achieved her goal. If he wasn't willing to submit, she definitely wouldn't leave. Thus, after a slight hesitation, Dustless raised his head slightly and pressed his lips against hers. Everything happened so suddenly that Nightblade God 10 fragrance looked at Wu Chen blankly. She stared blankly at the face that was so close to her. Seconds turned into minutes. Soon, Nightblade God 10 fragrance felt her body temperature rise. Her small face was bright red, and a nameless fire spread in her body. Nightblade God 10 fragrance clenched her small hands tightly. Her heartbeat sped up, and she didn't dare to look at Dustless's eyes. Buzz buzz buzz. At the same time, a huge white light suddenly swept across Nightblade God 10 fragrance's body. It was very dazzling, and a huge cocoon of light emitted a holy aura. Dustless slightly narrowed his eyes. Thinking back to the scene just now, he couldn't help but sigh. He was about to move away from Nightblade God 10 Fragrance's lips, but he lowered his body and kissed Nightblade God 10 Fragrance's lips again. This huge cocoon of light emitting a holy aura was exactly the same as the one that appeared on Coterie God 10 Fragrance's body. It was the precursor to sealing the elf's power. It also meant that Nightblade God 10 Fragrance was very shy at this moment. She was in the best state to seal her power. Dustless only needed to add a little more fuel to the fire to completely seal her power. Thinking for a moment, Dustless's hands gently moved over 10 Fragrance's body. He gently untied her bathrobe and touched her snow-white skin. "No, don't touch me. I feel very uncomfortable. It's like I'm burning up." Nightblade God 10 Fragrance's eyes were hazy as she protested. However, Dustless didn't care at all. He continued to do what he wanted, unscrupulously invading the young girl's body. He didn't let go of a single inch of her skin. Nightblade God 10 Fragrance trembled uncontrollably where Dustless touched. Her breathing sped up, and she let out a faint moan. Her body was soft, and even if she wanted to push Dustless away, she didn't have the extra strength. This state didn't last long. Nightblade God 10 Fragrance's power flowed through their lips and into Dustless's body. Bang! Time passed quickly, and after 5 or 6 seconds, the light cocoon on Toka's body exploded, revealing the girl's cute body. Just like when Coterie was sealed, Toka's clothes were gone as well. Damn it, after a long while, their lips parted. Dustless was the first to sigh. However, he didn't expect his words to anger the shy 10 Fragrance. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 gifts plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21:17. You dare to say that you want my life. How dare you, you little brat. You clearly took advantage of me, yet you say that you want my life. Very well, you have really angered me this time, Dustless. Night Sword God 10 Fragrance stared at Dustless with an extremely unfriendly gaze. Her snow-white arms were tightly gripping Dustless, and her eyes were filled with an ominous aura. It felt as if she wanted to tear Dustless apart alive. That's right. I have worked hard to seal your powers. Don't you think that I have to suffer? I even have to accompany you in your nonsense in the middle of the night. Dustless nodded indifferently. He was not afraid of 10 Fragrance's greedy eyes at all. He said leisurely, moreover, sealing the powers of fairies is extremely troublesome. I have to make all of you feel embarrassed. What a chore. Poor me, this skinny body of mine has to be ravaged by you. Dustless complained bitterly, like a little wife who had been bullied. Night Sword God 10 Fragrance was furious. How could there be such a shameless person in this world? In all fairness, Dustless was not good at dating. After all, he was an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years. Anyone would find it strange to take the initiative to hit on a teenage girl and go on a date with her. How dare you say that kissing me is a chore? Apologize to me, or I will beat you up. Night Sword God 10 Fragrance rudely threw Dustless away. She crossed her arms in front of her and said proudly, "Kissing me is a blessing that you have accumulated over 8 lifetimes." Dustless smiled and stared at the arrogant girl. Her voluptuous body was impeccable, as if it was sculpted by the heavens. Although she was still very young, only 17 years old, Dustless could not find any flaws. The places that should be protruding were definitely not flat. Apologize to me now. Night Sword God 10 Fragrance sat naked on top of Dustless. She raised her fist and repeated her words in a threatening tone. She stared at Dustless covetously, as if she was not done yet. You want me to apologize to you? Dream on. Dustless curled his lips in disdain. Soon after, he stared playfully at the exquisite and translucent body. Suddenly, he pointed out the window and said, "Look, the plane carrying soybean flour and bread is coming." These words seemed to be filled with endless magic, and yet Ao Shintoxiang's gaze immediately shifted over. "You tricked me." Nightblade God Toka snorted and looked out the window for a long time. She didn't see the plane carrying soybean flour bread, and she had never heard of a plane carrying soybean flour bread. After thinking about it for a while, Yidao God Toxiang realized that he had been tricked by Dustless. Paw asterisk paw asterisk paw. Just as he was about to teach Dustless a lesson, Nightblade God Toxiang suddenly felt a sharp pain. He looked down and saw two snow-white peaks the size of bowls swaying back and forth. He completely ignored the strange eyes of the people around him. In the eyes of these ordinary people, he probably didn't want to live anymore. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21:18. Vroom vroom vroom. The purple energy ball grew bigger and bigger, swallowing all the space around it. The violent force tore the city on the ground apart. In an instant, sand and dust were everywhere, and the bottom area of the spacequake was a mess. No wonder humans hate elves so much. Looking at the surrounding ruins, Dustless lowered his head and remained silent. Humans were sentimental creatures. They could only watch helplessly as their home was mercilessly destroyed. Naturally, they would hate the elves, who were the initiators of all this. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. At the same time, a series of flaming missiles came from afar, attacking the gradually expanding spacequake in a frenzy, trying to stop it from expanding. Boom boom boom. A large number of missiles exploded, and the blue sky suddenly burned with raging flames. The pungent smell of gunpowder spread to every corner of the city along with the wind. This group of AST members are all reckless. Even if they hate elves, they don't have to be so crazy. There are still many people around who haven't evacuated. Dustless frowned and looked up at the AST flying in the sky. He could not help but shake his head and immediately left lazily. Boom. It was worth mentioning that the attack of the AST members had an unexpected effect. The constantly expanding spacequake miraculously stopped. Although it offset the continued expansion of the spacequake in a certain sense, the huge energy ball eventually exploded. Oh no! The captain of the AST team, Liaozi under the sun, stared at the crack on the spacequake. The terrifying energy tide overflowed from the crack, and the power that seeped out turned into a violent storm. The AST members were blown back, and it was difficult for them to stabilize their bodies. Is this the power to control the wind? Looks like it's the two of them. Wu Chen's footsteps suddenly stopped. He looked up at the raging wind and waves in the sky. It was like a tornado. It was extremely terrifying. Even the lazy white clouds were blown away by the hurricane and disappeared without a trace. Dustless could only think of two elves with such an ability, Yaji Yaji and Yaji Shinjin. It's already difficult for this group of AST to deal with one elf. If it's two, it's enough to make them suffer. Dustless shook his head. It was not that he looked down on AST, but humans were still humans. It was too difficult for them to compete with the elves. Bang! Accompanied by a loud rumbling sound, the space exploded with a bang. Immediately after, violent wind waves swept out, blowing Dustless's hair to one side. Amidst the dense waves, one could even see flowing lights riding the wind. Upon closer inspection, they were the sisters Bawa Yajia and Bawa Shishin. However, all of this had nothing to do with Dustless. He merely took a few more glances before leisurely leaving. Bang! She looked at the face in front of her with a burning gaze and said with a chuckle, "Are you interested in joining our DM society? With your ability, you will definitely be put in an important position." Put in an important position. Little girl, don't tell me you are fooling me like a 3-year-old child. Dustless curled his lips in disdain and stared at the blonde girl in front of him with a sneer. The important position you are talking about is to catch me and use me as a lab rat for experiments, right? P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. I'll give you 10 times the benefits your boss gave you. How about that? You bastard. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because the higher-ups think highly of you. Don't challenge my bottom line. Hearing this, Irene's eyes were filled with anger. She stared at Dustless with uncertainty. Her eyes were filled with a terrifying scarlet aura. She subconsciously clenched her fists. Hee, you want to be rough with me? Just you. Do you know the consequences of an ant challenging a giant? Idiot. Dustless looked at Irene with a mocking smile. Not only was he not intimidated by the girl's aura, but he was also gradually getting interested. Originally, he just wanted to teach this arrogant girl a lesson. He didn't expect her to take a mile after taking an inch. I know that you're the strongest magician. Your combat power is unquestionable. Dustless stared at Irene's pretty face. He immediately chuckled and said, but I'm sure you've investigated my information and know my combat power. You don't have the confidence to defeat me. Otherwise, with your company's way of doing things, you would have sent people to capture me long ago, right? The strong never cared about the feelings of the weak. If Dustless was the prey in Irene's eyes, he might have been captured the moment he appeared in this world. Just like how he captured the elves later on, the reason was too superfluous. You can do something out of line to challenge me. Irene stared at Dustless expressionlessly. Her eyes were full of hostility. She was clearly warning Dustless not to act rashly. Ha ha. I forgot to tell you that my temper may be a little strange. Those things that I'm not allowed to do, I just like to persevere and complete them. For example, right now, you hope that I don't provoke you, but I like to seek death. So what if I provoke your bottom line? Dustless's eyes were full of mockery. One of his large hands grabbed Irene's chin, while the other hand grabbed her shirt. Crack. With a casual tug, Dustless tore the corner of Irene's straight suit. Her snow-white skin was faintly discernible, and one could clearly see the huge ball of flesh. Let me get this straight. Being able to warm my bed with you is the blessing of 8 lifetimes. There have been many people who wanted to get on my bed but didn't have the chance. I repeat, this is because I think highly of you. Dustless spoke frankly. His expression deeply angered Irene. However, this was also an undeniable fact. After all, most of Dustless's female confidants were extremely powerful. For example, Kagaya Otsutsuki, Uno Hana Retsu, or Boa Hancock. Compared to them, Irene was not worth mentioning, whether it was in terms of strength or beauty. Good, very good. Irene trembled in anger. A gentle breeze blew, and her face was cold. However, her heart was like an exploding volcano. Anger filled her mind. Irene was fuming with anger. She was hit hard by Dustless's words. Die for me, you stinky brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. As soon as his voice fell, Irene's fragrant foot smashed over. Bang! Dustless casually grabbed it and subdued it. His cold eyes did not have a trace of emotion. What if I strip you naked on the streets? Gulp. Hearing this, Irene instantly shivered. She looked at Dustless in fear, then said submissively, Sorry, I was wrong. I will definitely be obedient in the future. At least you know what's good for you. Dustless lightly snorted. Just as he was about to stand up, he suddenly felt a large amount of softness wrap around him. You guys. What do you want? Could it be that you guys think I'm made of mud and want to test my strength? To his left and right were the unexpected Bachiwu Ya Guya and Bachiwu Shisian. Hey, Shisian, we've competed in so many events, but there's never been a winner. This time, let's do something different. Whoever this brat falls for first will win. How about that? Bachiwu Ya Guya looked at Bachiwu Shisian provocatively. At the same time, he gave Dustless a few coquettish glances, as if to say, "You're lucky, brat." What does this have to do with me? The corner of Dustless's mouth twitched when he heard this. He felt as if he had been innocently shot while lying down. He cursed in his heart, "You guys can compete, but what does it have to do with me?" Agreed. The naturally naive Bachiwu Shisian readily agreed without hesitation. She was extremely decisive and did not even bat an eyelid. Hee, now there's a good show to watch. Irene looked at Dustless with a gloating expression. Even the mission of roping him in had been thrown out of the window. Seeing Dustless's gloomy face, she felt particularly happy. However, she had to admit that Dustless's luck with women was really good. Just standing on the street, there were beauties sending themselves to his door, making others envious. Let's start now. I'll definitely make you accept your defeat wholeheartedly. Bachiwu Ya Guya looked down at Bachiwu Shisian arrogantly. Then, he hugged Dustless tightly, wanting to take him into his arms. Hurry up and fall for me. Bachiwu Ya Guya almost rode on Dustless, as if he wanted to merge himself with Dustless, for fear that Bachiwu Shisian would snatch him away. Hurry up and fall for you. Dustless's face was extremely dark. If he was not different from ordinary people, he would have been strangled to death. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Itsuka Kotori was also stunned. She bit the lollipop in her mouth subconsciously. She didn't expect these two elves to be so obedient. Especially when they met Dustless for the first time, they were so obedient. Quickly show me the data of those two elves. Itsuka Kotori's eyes turned slightly, and she couldn't wait to order Kuhei. Commander, I have seen the favorability of those two elves to Dustless. Murasame Rain slowly walked over, put the freshly brewed coffee aside, looked at the data, and explained, at first, the favorability of Dustless was only 10%, but after Dustless asked them to duel, the favorability climbed to an astonishing 40%. Crack. Hearing this, Itsuka Kotori clenched her teeth and said in disbelief, I thought the favorability of the two elves to Dustless would drop to negative, but it increased by 30%. God, is there a mistake? As an outsider, I can see that Dustless is deliberately making the two elves kill each other, but the favorability didn't decrease but increased. It's really strange. No, this may be Dustless's intention. Murasame Rain looked at the lazy Dustless through the screen, and after thinking for a few seconds, she explained, perhaps Dustless knows the character of the two elves and did this deliberately. I'm afraid that refusing will cause more chaos. Not to mention, Murasame Rain really guessed it right. Dustless knew the character of Bawa Yagusha and Bawa Shishin. After living for so long, day after day, year after year, Dustless's heart had been tempered thousands of times. How could he be easily infatuated with others? Therefore, he could only think of other ways to transfer the problem. It was not a big problem to let the two elves fight. Anyway, their strength was at the same level, and no one could do anything to each other. In the end, they could only stop. The war between women looks particularly pleasing to the eye. Looking up at the sky, above the sky, two streamers were fighting with all their strength, and the loud noise was very oppressive. Why is it so easy to tame the elves? Irene's eyes were fixed on Dustless's body, and she complained in a sour tone, if I were a man, maybe the two elves just now would choose me instead of Dustless. Looking at this momentum, I'm afraid I don't need to do anything. I can just use my mouth to subdue them. With the appearance of the elves, the residents around fled. Only Dustless was left. Bawa Yagusha and Bawa Shishian could only choose him. If you were a man. Hearing Irene's soft complaint, Dustless just smiled and joked, they wouldn't be obedient. Why? Irene asked puzzledly. Idiot. Glancing at Irene, Dustless rolled his eyes and said, men and women can change sex, do I still need you? P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21-22. You are shameless. Irene glared at Dustless, gritting her teeth angrily, and there were clearly visible traces of blood on her tongue. It's not that she was narrow-minded, but this guy's words were too irritating. You continue to play, I'm going to teach. Completely ignoring the angry Irene, Dustless left her a lazy back. Boom boom boom. The battle between the two people in the sky was still going on fiercely, but as Dustless imagined, Yabwa Yajia and Yabwa Shishin couldn't do anything to each other. Sigh. Staring at Dustless's back, Irene just sighed helplessly. The thin back looked vulnerable, but for Irene, it was the most troublesome and dangerous enemy. Time flies, and it was noon in the blink of an eye, in the PE teacher's office. Dustless-kun, I heard that you will have a new assistant to report. Murasame Rain stared at Dustless, who was sleeping on the table, and was secretly entangled. Where did this guy come to be a teacher? He was obviously lazy and sleeping. He was so comfortable. New assistant. Rubbing his sleepy eyes, Dustless glanced at Murasame Rain and complained, is it an undercover like you? I have never heard of a PE teacher who needs an assistant. Hearing this, Murasame Rain was silent. This matter was really a bit strange. What did a PE teacher need to stop? Including Murasame Rain, this assistant was not worthy of the name. I want to see who is coming to die. Looking out of the window in boredom, Dustless's slack eyes gradually had a little more expectation. Anyway, it was just a way to pass the boring time. By the way, how are the two elves today? With a change of topic, Dustless suddenly remembered Yabwa Yajia and Yabwa Shishian, and asked curiously, were they killed by AST? Thanks to you, they didn't. The two sisters left safe and sound. Rain Murasame shook her head slightly and said with a smile, the strongest in AST is Tobi Origami, but since you saved her parents, her hatred for elves has been greatly reduced. Although she still works in AST, she has not killed anyone, and her hatred for elves has decreased a lot. Ta 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 ta, suddenly, a creaking sound came from the corridor. Are they coming? It sounds like the sound of high heels. In other words, is it a woman? Wu Chen's eyes lit up a little. He looked at the closed door with interest. He wanted to see who this inexplicable assistant was. Creak. The locked door was suddenly opened, revealing a delicate face. The emerald eyes were very dazzling. The moment she appeared, Dustless's sight could no longer move. It was not that this woman's appearance was outstanding. Although she looked good, her skin was white, and her appearance was outstanding, but this was not what Dustless cared about the most. It was that this so-called assistant was a familiar person, and she had a grudge with Dustless before. Are you here to pick a fight? If so, then congratulations, you will definitely suffer my revenge. Chapter 21-24. Ai Lien was so angry that her head felt stuffy. Her slender white jade finger trembled as she pointed at Wu Qin. Seeing this guy's sloppy manner with a cheap smile on his face, her pink face instantly turned red like a monkey's butt. Her pair of eyes that were enough to spurt out flames almost melted Wu Qin. Are you purposely going against me? Don't think that I'm easy to bully. Do you believe that I can kick you out of this school with just a flick of my finger? Ai Lien could not bear it any longer. looking at Dustless's stinky face, her innermost being churned, almost throwing up. This bastard is too hateful. He bullied me time and time again. Not to mention a living person, even a clay bodhisattva would be angered by Dustless. Hee, you want me to get out? Dustless laughed. He blinked his deep eyes and said innocently, you want me to get out? I can't ask for anything more. If you have the guts, ask the principal to fire me right now. Dustless put his feet on the table and leaned his head on the soft cushion. He even whistled, looking like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. Don't get carried away. Irene pointed at Dustless and trembled with anger. She wanted to kick Dustless out of this school. She also wanted to, but the higher-ups would not agree to such a doting method. Her task was to monitor Wu Qin and collect the data of this abominable brat. If Wu Qin left, how could she collect the data? Therefore, Irene was just casually saying it to scare Dustless. She thought that threatening Dustless would scare him, but who would have thought that this guy would retreat in order to advance? His expression made Irene so angry that she wanted to bite Dustless to death. You have guts. Just wait and see. Irene glared at Dustless and left. Being in the same space as this guy, she felt that she would lose 10 years of her life. Hey, Irene, don't run. Go and clean the toilet bowl in the girls' room. Also, remember to clean the entire school building. And lastly, despicable bastard, he must have done it on purpose, definitely. Does the PE teacher's assistant need to clean the ladies' room? You're deliberately causing trouble for me. Dustless's series of orders came from behind. Hearing this, Irene almost vomited blood. Who does this bastard think I am? Even a full-time nanny wouldn't need to take care of the school building. What a bastard. You better not fall into my hands. Irene turned around and glanced at Dustless's ugly face, then angrily ran away. You've completely infuriated her like this. It's inevitable that you'll cause some unnecessary trouble. Seeing that Irene had run away, Murasame Rain sighed with melancholy. Once the opportunity was seized, the other party would definitely retaliate fiercely. So what? Even if I infuriated her, would she eat me? Dustless disapproved of this and sneered, playing with her is an honor for this little girl. Chapter 21-25. The two of you. No wonder I couldn't find any traces of you. So Ling Yin hid you. Also, what kind of nonsense did she teach you? Why are you wearing maid outfits? Dustless stared straight at the two girls. At this moment, their outfits were extremely revealing. Because of the white maid outfits, their skin was almost transparent, and their graceful bodies were completely exposed to Dustless. Cough, cough, cough. Even though Dustless was an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years, he was also quite embarrassed at this moment. He looked at the clear eyes of the two sisters, which were as pure and flawless as snow. It was obvious that they didn't know anything and were extremely simple-minded. Don't even think about running away this time. I will definitely make you infatuated with me. Bichiwa Yajia hugged Dustless's right arm and directly stuffed Dustless's right arm into the cleavage in front of her. The endless aftertaste of the touch immediately surged into his heart. Dustless's heart, which had been calm for many years, rippled, and a nameless fire burned in his heart. Objection. Bichiwa Shishuan did the same and also pulled Dustless's cheating arm over and buried it deep in her cleavage. She looked at Bichiwa Yajia provocatively. Your rough skin will only make Dustless more uncomfortable. What did you say? Shishuan, do you believe that I won't tear your mouth apart? Bichiwa Yajia was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He instantly stood up and glared at Bichiwa Shishuan, looking like he was about to start a fight. This is the truth. Bichiwa Shishuan was not afraid at all. She looked into Bichiwa Yajia's eyes without any fear. She pointed at Dustless and announced, "Teacher said that men like big breasts. You obviously have no advantage in this aspect. Admit defeat, Yejia." "Humph, your breasts are big." "What a joke, Shishwan." Hearing this, Yasuya Geisha sneered. Then, like an arrogant queen, she crossed her arms in front of her and squeezed the heavy meatball in front of her. She looked at Yasuya Geisha's cleavage with disdain. "Your cleavage is too small. It can't even withstand a single blow. If you know what's good for you, leave quickly. Don't lose face if you lose." Objection. Balwa Shishin said sarcastically, "Yajuya is just, all of you, stop. From now on, you are not allowed to speak without my permission." Dustless suddenly interrupted the quarrel between the two and asked with a headache, "Who is the teacher you are talking about? Which damn teacher taught you all this? This kind of teacher is simply a beast in human clothing. Instead of teaching the students properly, he actually taught you how to seduce men. He's sick." Dustless opened his mouth. Just as he was about to continue speaking, a figure suddenly appeared in his mind. In the original work, it was Murasame Rain who taught the two sisters how to seduce men, tricking the two sisters to capture 5 River Shido. Chapter 21-26. Of course, Dustless could also imitate Itsuka Shido, disguise himself as a woman, and try to seduce Meijyo. "Okay, I promise you two that I'll accompany you to see Meijyo's concert in 3 days." Dustless couldn't bear to refuse when faced with Yejuya and Yeju Shisien's expectant eyes. He had no choice but to agree to go to the concert in 3 days. "Hee, at least you know what's good for you. It's rare for you to be so obedient. I'll give you a reward." Yejuya looked at Dustless with a smile. She stared at his white and tender face and blushed. But when she recalled Murasame Rain's advice, she mustered up her courage and still took the initiative to approach him. "What do you want?" Dustless looked at Yejuya strangely. He didn't know what this guy was doing. "Shisien wants it too." At the same time, Yeju Shisien's face also leaned over. Her eyes stared at Dustless like a wolf or a tiger, as if she was hesitating where to start. These two guys, seeing this, Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Ripples appeared on both sides of his eyes. He was speechless to find that he was surrounded by the small lips of the two girls on both sides. Moi. Taking advantage of Dustless's hesitation, Yejuya and Yeju Shisien attacked with great tacit understanding. The two of them left a pink lip print on Dustless's left and right cheeks. "You." Wu Chen's eyes widened when he sensed the strange sensation on his cheek. He sighed when he saw the two girls' delicate faces. Forget it. It's fine that you took advantage of me. I'll put this on Ling Yin's head. You're the one who's benefiting." Yejuya punched Dustless and said angrily, "You're the one who took advantage of us, not the other way around. How many handsome guys want to go to the concert with me? I'm not interested." "Is that so? Then I'm really surprised to be invited by the two of you." Dustless chuckled. His tone was very flat. In fact, let alone watching the concert, he didn't know how many beauties were circling around him. It was just that Dustless didn't care. After all, there were too many beauties in the world. He couldn't fall in love with every one of them. Moreover, a mere concert was nothing. As long as Dustless called, there would definitely be countless beauties accompanying him to watch the concert. This was the benefit of being powerful. Ding ding ding, in the blink of an eye, it was noon. At the same time, it was also the time for Lai Chan High School to be dismissed. "You haven't gone back yet." Walking into the PE teacher's office, the first thing that came into view was Dustless lying comfortably on the sofa. His eyes were closed as if he was taking a nap. "Of course, I'm still missing you, the main character." Dustless suddenly opened his eyes and stared at the figure of Murasame Rain. His palms suddenly grabbed, and a large scale of gravity broke out in an instant. Boom! After all, they are too simple, but as their teacher, I can retaliate against you. I will let you understand the consequences of using me. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21-27. Dustless had a great expression, which made Murasame Rain's chest tremble with anger. Let me go, or I will scream. You don't want to be seen by others, do you? A strong person like you doesn't want to lose your reputation and be treated as a pervert, do you? Murasame Rain looked at Dustless in horror. The joy of victory before disappeared without a trace. She secretly scolded that this deal was a loss. Although it was cool to see Dustless being defeated, the sad thing was that she got herself involved in it. Ah, you still dare to threaten me when you are about to die. You're such a stubborn person. Dustless looked at Murasame Rain angrily, and then raised his arm under her surprised gaze. Stop it. Stop it. Murasame Rain blushed, her face was red, and the dark circles on both sides of her eyes disappeared. She had already guessed what Dustless would do to her. Paw! A ruthless slap fell, and there was a clear palm print on Murasame Rain's butt. You dare to threaten me, Paw! Another merciless slap landed on his face. You dare to plot against me, Paw! Another slap fell. This scene lasted about a few minutes. When it was over, Murasame Rain had crystal tears on both sides of her eyes. Obviously, she was beaten by Dustless. Wait and see. Murasame Rain stared at Dustless's back fiercely, and her small hand subconsciously touched her butt. She grimaced in pain, but strangely, she didn't feel disgusted. Not only that, but she was full of energy, and there was boiling heat in her body. Strange, when did I become like this? Murasame Rain was extremely embarrassed. Every time she was slapped by Dustless, her body would have a strange electric current, and her body was soft. If it weren't for the fact that Dustless was close at hand, she might have been unable to stand up. Just now, she was in pain and pleasure. Why don't you go? Do you want to stay here and try again? Dustless turned his head to look at Murasame Rain, who was still wasting time in the office, and smiled playfully. Do you want to change other tricks? For an old monster like me who has lived for hundreds of years, I have many tricks up my sleeve. You're already a few hundred years old, yet you're still playing this kind of trick. Then you must have been a super freak when you were young. Murasame Lingyin snorted softly, and her charming eyes were like silk. Usually, she looked sluggish. At this moment, her budding appearance was like a blooming rose, which made it difficult for people to move their eyes away. Don't be so sure. Have you seen me when I was young? When this young master was young, flowers bloomed when they saw me, and everyone loved me when they saw me. How am I as wretched as you say? Or... Dustless blinked his bright eyes and said with a faint smile, is your body feeling something and you like me just now? Ah, what a bad woman. Damn hooligan. Dustless retorted as he stared at Tokisaki Kurumi. His eyes instantly turned into Sharingan as his eye power surged violently. Kamui. A twisting whirlpool appeared above Tokisaki Kurumi and she was swallowed before she could react. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21-28. In an unfamiliar space, the sky was dark and gloomy. There was no sun, no blue sky, and no white clouds. The so-called sky was just a hazy darkness. What is this place? An extra-dimensional space. Tokisaki Kuzo looked left and right with a dazed expression. Her watery eyes widened as she looked around. No matter how she looked at it, this silent world was like a living hell. Is this Dustless's doing? What an incredible man. He always manages to shock others. Shoving her finger into her mouth, Tokasaki Kurumi said in distress, "This fellow is too weird. I shouldn't have challenged a man." Tokasaki Kurumi was filled with regret. She looked at this unfamiliar world and felt helpless. Her ability was meaningless in this world. Ever since she was born, Tokasaki Kurumi had killed countless people. Among the enemies she had encountered, Dustless was the most monstrous. Whether it was Tashiichi Origami from AST or Changi Ashina, they were all nothing compared to Dustless. They were just clowns. Tokasaki Kurumi would rather face 10 Changi Ashinas than fight Dustless. His ability was always so shocking and incomprehensible. However, to be able to use such a powerful ability, you're indeed worthy of being the man I value. Soon, the haze on Tokasaki Kurumi's face disappeared without a trace. It was replaced by a crisp laughter. Her fair face was extremely adorable. Tokasaki Kurumi was like a shape-shifting demoness. No one knew what she was thinking. You're in trouble, yet you can still laugh. This is worthy of praise. Your mentality is very good. A faint ripple appeared in the void. A gap slowly enlarged, and Dustless walked out from it. His clean-cut face, wise and confident eyes, and that almost natural indifference. His eyes that were as calm as still water seemed to be able to see through everything. Nothing could escape Dustless's control. "Little man, why did you imprison me? Don't tell me you're really going to push me down." Although I don't mind having a beautiful night with you, don't you think it's too boring to do that kind of thing in this kind of place with dark clouds covering the sun?" Tokasaki Kurumi's words were glib as her eyes narrowed into crescents. Her perfect face coupled with her soft voice was as smooth as silk, making it hard for anyone to reject her. It had to be said that Tokasaki Kurumi was a perfect person. Although she wasn't flawless, she was very skilled in dealing with men. Knowing that she couldn't defeat Dustless with her own strength, she immediately adopted a soft approach. "Spoilsport. So what? Do you have a choice now? Do you have the right to negotiate with me? Don't get carried away, Tokasaki Kurumi." Dustless looked at her coldly. Although he felt that this girl was not bad, it was absolutely unforgivable for her to make a move on the people he cared about. "If you speak so coldly, I will be very sad." Tokasaki Kurumi revealed a sad expression. Her eyes were watery as if she was about to cry. It was truly a pitiful sight. "Keep acting. Keep acting." However, Dustless only responded with a sneer. Tokasaki Kurumi's ability to show off was not bad, but it was a pity that she chose the wrong person this time. Dustless was like a stone that didn't understand women's feelings. No matter how Tokasaki Kurumi tried to seduce him, he remained unmoved. "Stinking brat, let me out." After a while, seeing that Dustless didn't budge, Tokasaki Kurumi finally couldn't hold it in anymore. She didn't want to spend the rest of her life in this silent world. "I'm stronger than you, so what if I don't listen to you? Are you going to bite me?" Dustless said coldly. "Let's talk nicely. Why don't we both take a step back? If both sides suffer, it will only benefit AST." Tokasaki Kurumi looked at Dustless with a helpless smile. Her tone was inevitably weaker than before. "I'm stronger than you." Dustless's reply was the same as before. "Bastard, don't be so shameless." Tokasaki Kurumi's face was ashen. "I'm stronger than you." "You." Hearing this, Tokasaki Kurumi looked at Dustless with hatred. Her heart was filled with bitterness. Just as Dustless said, he was stronger than her and could easily take the life of the weak. On the other hand, Tokasaki Kurumi had no choice. "How about this? Taking a deep breath, Tokasaki Kurumi had no choice but to throw caution to the wind. I swear, I won't trouble you anymore. How about you let me out? In the future, we'll go our separate ways. I'm stronger than you. My words are final. Dustless looked up at the sky. His words made Tokasaki Kurumi vomit blood. You're ruining my good impression of you. Don't be like this, okay? Tokasaki Kurumi laughed, but her face was twitching. It was obvious that she was forcing a smile. Her true intention was to beat Dustless to death. You want to go back? Sure, kneel down and give me a massage. With a wave of his hand, a stool appeared at Dustless's feet. He sat on it with a satisfied expression and closed his eyes to rest. You brat, don't push your luck. Seeing this, Tokasaki Kurumi clenched her teeth in anger. Her eyes turned red. This damn brat is too much of a bully. He wants me to massage his annoying enemy's back. Dream on. Then don't go out for the rest of your life. Goodbye. As soon as he finished speaking, the void around Dustless rippled and gradually swallowed his body. Wait, you win. I agree. Seeing that Dustless was about to disappear, Tokasaki Kurumi panicked. If she was the only one left in this dead world, she might as well kill herself. She quickly agreed to Dustless's condition. You want to fight with me? I'll play you to death this time. Dustless smiled without saying a word. He sat on the chair and crossed his legs comfortably. If you don't work hard, I'll let you spend the rest of your life in this world and slowly torture you. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 reviews plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 21-29. Tokasaki Kurumi was also having a headache. Rather than spending the rest of her life alone in this world, it would be better to just kill her. The most horrifying way to die wasn't to suffer all kinds of torture or pain, but to live in a completely different world without anyone to communicate with and without the concept of time. Living in such an environment for a long time would drive one crazy. Serve me well if you know what's good for you. If you anger me, you'll have to bear the consequences. Dustless was lying on the chair comfortably. Behind him was Tokasaki Kurumi, who was unwilling but could only endure. Brat, don't be so smug. If you fall into my hands in the future. Humph. Tokasaki Kurumi's eyes flickered with resentment. All along, she had been pranked by Dustless many times and had accumulated a bellyful of resentment. Sadly, Dustless was always one step ahead of her, and she was always the one suffering. Just you wait. Standing behind Dustless, Tokasaki Kurumi pinched Dustless's shoulder. Although it was a massage, her face was filled with displeasure. She wanted to strangle Dustless to death. Be gentler. Dustless's eyes rolled as he scolded. Be careful or I'll throw you into this world and lock you up for 10 years. There won't be anyone or any life to accompany you. You'll only be left with eternal loneliness. I'll bear with it. Tokasaki Kuzo was also helpless against Dustless's methods. He looked around the dark world and couldn't help but shiver. To be imprisoned in such a place where people were neither human nor ghost was better off dead. Not bad. You have the potential to be a maid. Dustless's face was filled with pleasure. After being scolded by him, Tokasaki Kurumi's techniques were much more delicate and appropriate. Now that he thought about it, the old saying was right. If you don't punish someone for 3 days, they'll become unruly. Sometimes, arrogant women like Tokasaki Kurumi needed to be taught a lesson to make them obedient. Time flew by, and unknowingly, a few hours had passed. This guy really knows how to enjoy himself, Tokasaki Kurumi massaged her sore shoulders in anger. Every time she met Dustless, she would be filled with anger and frustration. But she had nowhere to vent it, which made her feel especially aggrieved. Hey! You should let me go. You actually fell asleep. Seeing that Dustless was ignoring her, Tokisaki Kurumi walked over and saw Dustless squinting his eyes with a serene expression. His breathing was even. Take a closer look. This fellow is only not annoying when he's sleeping. She stared at Wu Chen's face. The more she looked at his handsome face, the more interesting it felt. It gave her a feeling of reliability and trustworthiness. Tokisaki Kurumi couldn't help but move closer to Wu Chen. Their cheeks were almost touching. Should I take this opportunity to ambush her? Tokisaki Kuzo's eyes darted around. At the same time, Dustless returned to the real world. In fact, Dustless had wanted to imprison Tokisaki Kurumi for a long time. This girl was extremely ambitious and would use any despicable means to achieve her goals. Tokisaki Kurumi had killed countless people and had no bottom line. For the safety of others, he could only imprison Tokisaki Kurumi temporarily, hoping that she would come to her senses one day and repent. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2130. After solving Tokisaki Kurumi's problem, Dustless leisurely escaped from the Kamui space. His face was as calm as a breeze, and he had a gentle smile on his face. In the future, he won't have to worry about Tokisaki Kurumi anymore. Time is merciless, and sooner or later, her patience and sharpness will be exhausted. In the end, she will succumb under Dustless's feet. Bang, 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 inside the Kamui space. It was just as Dustless had predicted. Tokisaki Kurumi discovered that there was no exit in this world. She stomped her feet in frustration, venting her frustrations and depression. However, her two pairs of delicate feet collapsed, and no one responded to her. Is it really as Dustless said? Am I the only one in this world? Tokisaki Kurumi's eyes widened as she looked around. She wanted to drag the entire world into her eyes, but after looking around for a long time, she didn't find a single person. No, let alone a person, she didn't even find a single life form. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 1 day, 2 days. Tokisaki Kurumi finally confirmed that this was a dead space without any life. After another 2 days, Tokisaki Kurumi realized that she couldn't endure it any longer. Wasting her time alone was worse than death. Dustless, come out. I agree to your conditions. Tokisaki Kurumi's cries filled the Kamui space. Her sorrowful tone was filled with longing and reluctance to part with this world. After all, she was still a young girl, and it was normal for her to yearn for the bustling outside world. Tokisaki Kurumi felt a chill run down her spine at the thought of being a lonely ghost in a dead space. Dustless, come out. I know you're watching from a corner. I admit defeat. I agree to your conditions. Come out. Tokisaki Kurumi screamed hysterically, but what made her collapse was that no one responded to her in this boundless world. Everything was looking at her coldly. During this period, Dustless naturally noticed Tokisaki Kurumi's transformation. He was like a wooden block as he watched Tokisaki Kurumi's transformation. Only by completely obliterating the persistence in her heart will this woman be sensible. If I let this woman out now, I might just be releasing a hungry wolf. Let her continue to starve for the time being. Dustless mumbled. At the same time, he looked at the girls who were dressing up and frowned. It's just a concert. Is there a need to make it so grand? Of course, you don't understand a girl's thoughts. Murasame Rain rolled her eyes at Dustless, and her tone was full of resentment. It seemed that she was still upset about being spanked by Dustless last time. In front of the person she likes, a girl always wants to show her perfect self, so she must dress carefully. Is that so? Dustless muttered as he looked at the scenery outside the window. His empty eyes were a little dazed for a moment. Chapter 2131. It was a woman's nature to love beauty. After Wu Chen's praise, everyone's face was surging with cheerful smiles. Their hearts were also filled with indescribable excitement. Even though they knew that Wu Chen was flattering them, they were still exceptionally happy. Sometimes, mushy words were disgusting, but they were the most useful. Let's go. That seductive Meijio is a troublesome character. Murasame Rain reminded them. They had investigated Meijio before and found that this girl was very similar to Itsuka Kotori. She was also a human with the power of an elf, and she had a very strange fetish, being a lesbian. It will be much harder to take down this elf than before. Itsuka Kotori sighed. Seductress Meijio's personality was very strange. She hated men so much that her favorability would drop below that of a cockroach. You have to do your best, Dustless. Itsuka Kotori gave Dustless an encouraging look and prayed silently. Meijio's concert was at the square in front of the Tachibana station in the western part of Heavenly Palace City. It took Dustless and his group about 10 minutes to arrive. Are you kidding me? It's just a concert. Why are there so many people? After getting out of the car, Dustless looked at the scene in front of him in shock. From afar, the whole square was filled with people. It was almost like a sea of people. It was so crowded that it was difficult to move. Let's wait patiently. This is the reason why we're late. If we were a little earlier, there would be even more people, and we might even be stuck on the road. Itsuka Kotori rolled her eyes. She wasn't surprised by this at all. Do you want me to chase these people away? Night Sword God Toka blinked her eyes and looked at Dustless expectantly. It seemed like she only needed one command from Dustless and she would do it. This guy, Itsuka Kotori, was speechless. In the past, Toka's favorability towards Dustless was 100%. Now, she had evolved into a love-struck fool. What frustrated Itsuka Kotori the most was that Dustless did not invest in her at all. All he did was take her out to eat all sorts of delicacies. This caused Toka to like Dustless even more. Leave it to me, this is a piece of cake. 8 Dance Yagiya patted her chest and promised. Then, a large amount of spiritual energy fluctuations erupted from her body. Boom boom boom. The originally bright sky was suddenly filled with strong winds. It was as if a tornado had suddenly appeared. Many people who were caught off guard were blown away by the wind. What a bunch of unscrupulous people. How dare they release their spiritual energy in broad daylight? Aren't they afraid of being discovered by the other members of AST? Well, it makes sense. Birds of a feather flock together. Dustless is always acting like the boss of the world. His friends don't follow the rules either. In a corner about 10 meters away from Itsuka Kotori and the others, a thin girl wearing a hat was observing Toka and the others with her watery eyes. She did not want to let go of any loopholes. Of course, the girl noticed Yagiya's actions. She glanced at the mysterious girl who was secretly observing Toka and the others. Even though she was wearing a hat, it was hard to hide her beautiful and peaceful face. Her lively eyes were bright and lively. The girl was also holding a small bag of hardtack in her hand. She was eating while observing Toka and the others. Strange, where did Dustless go? Her gaze suddenly flickered a few times, and the biscuit that was stuffed into her mouth was also abruptly put down. Unknowingly, Wu Qin was like a ghost that came and went without a trace, and disappeared from the girl's clear eyes. Girl. Are you looking for me? You're not here to spy on me, are you? A large, warm hand suddenly clasped the young girl's shoulder from behind. The mysterious man looked at the young girl in front of him with a faint smile on his face. Who is it? The girl's heart skipped a beat. The moment she turned around, she saw a familiar face. She asked subconsciously, dustless. Did you notice me? The girl who was secretly monitoring Dustless and the others was Toka Origami. Wu-chin nodded and said with a light smile, of course I noticed. Since the moment we left home, you have been secretly following us. Toka Origami bit her lips and whispered, don't tell me you have eyes behind your head as well. You guessed it right. No, I didn't. Dustless shook his finger and said calmly, you want to get close to me without me noticing. You're still far from it. Alright, now tell me your purpose. Toka Origami obviously hesitated. She lowered her head and her eyes flashed with a strange luster. Is it hard to say? Dustless frowned and touched the girl's embarrassed face. He did not make things difficult for the girl and smiled gently. If that's the case, you don't have to tell me. I might have already thought of it. When you kill or capture the elves, I just hope you can stay away from me. Yuichi Origami took a deep breath and looked around. After making sure that there were no AST members around, she pulled Dustless into the corner. She stood on her tiptoes and said softly, you have to be careful these days. The higher-ups have made a secret plan and they might want to deal with you. Deal with me? Hearing this, Dustless laughed and said casually, come on, come on. I'll smash as many people as you come. You misunderstood me. It's not about dealing with you. Toka Origami shook her head. After hesitating for a few seconds, she remembered that Dustless saved her parents. She gritted her teeth and said, I heard that they might be dealing with Toka. You have to be careful. Toka. Wu-chen's pupils suddenly constricted a few times, and a dense viciousness flashed across his face. In his eyes, there was even a trace of soul-stirring ghastly killing intent. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2132. You, Dustless. Are you okay? You looked so scary just now. Toichi Origami looked at Dustless, whose expression had changed greatly, and instinctively took a few steps back. His scarlet eyes were filled with a gloomy aura of death. Even the sharp-eyed Toichi Origami could see that there was a chill rolling in the air around Dustless. Toichi Origami's face was as pale as frost. She found that her chest seemed to be carrying a mountain. It was difficult to breathe, and she could suffocate at any time. It seems that the Night Sword God Toka is Dustless's beloved daughter, and those girls are probably the same. As long as we dare to touch them, we will inevitably suffer a disaster. I hope that the higher-ups can give up this unrealistic plan and don't burn themselves. Toichi Origami's face was unusually stiff. The aura that disappeared in an instant just now gave her the illusion that AST had challenged a devil who had done all kinds of bad things, and she could be crushed by the furious Dustless at any time. I'm fine. Dustless softly responded and looked at Toichi Origami a few more times. His tone had a rare trace of gentleness. Origami, if I remember correctly, your original purpose of joining AST was to avenge your parents and destroy the elves, right? I hope that there will no longer be a child in the world who has the same tragedy as you. Yes. Toichi Origami nodded slightly and said bluntly, when I learned that my parents were killed by the elves, I hated the elves to the core. So, I resolutely joined AST and underwent hellish training. Today, I finally have some small achievements. Small achievements. Wu-chin laughed involuntarily and scratched the girl's delicate nose. You're already the strongest in AST. Among the humans, you're also second to none. Don't belittle yourself. Besides, your situation is different from others. At this point, Dustless suddenly became silent. As a transmigrator, he knew some unknown inside stories. Toichi Origami was not only a member of AST, but she was also a proper elf. Besides what? Seeing that Dustless was silent and his eyes were flickering, no one knew what he was thinking. Origami asked curiously, "Is there something special about me?" "Of course there is. You will find out in the future." Dustless responded with a smile. It was better to keep silent for the time being. In the future, Origami would understand. Now that your parents have been resurrected, your hatred towards the elves must have dissipated, right? Why don't you leave AST? You and Shixiang are classmates, so you know her personality. Dustless's words were shocking. He wanted to poach AST and pull Yuichi Origami into his camp. Koichi Origami fell silent. Although her hatred for Itsuka Kotori had disappeared, it was still difficult for her to integrate into Dustless's team in an instant. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 2133. Girls these days are so unrestrained. Wuchen rubbed the remaining water stains on his cheeks, and his face was filled with helplessness. Looking at the back of Yuichi Origami, Wuchen knew that he would never get rid of this burden in the future. In other words, Tabichi Origami was going to follow him for the rest of her life. Is it because I brought her parents back to life that Tabichi Origami is grateful to me? Dustless mumbled to himself as he walked toward Itsuka Kotori and the others. Seriously, the concert is about to start, why are you still walking around? Aren't you afraid of losing your way? Itsuka Kotori put her hands on her waist and said aggressively. I'm not a person with no sense of direction. Dustless was speechless. He didn't know when Itsuka Kotori started to pick on him. Looks like I'll have to wait for a while. Looking at the sea of people in front of him, the entrance was almost full. It would take at least 10 minutes for them to enter the venue. I'm going to buy some juice, I'll be back soon. As soon as he finished speaking, Dustless left in a carefree manner. He didn't even give Kotori a chance to refute. He directly transformed into a gust of wind and drifted away in an exceptionally carefree and ethereal manner. Damn you, you're fast. Itsuka Kotori crossed her arms and stomped her feet. Commander, seeing Dustless leaving, Rain Murasame came over and giggled. Didn't you notice? You've been picking on Dustless recently, especially when it comes to girls, did I? Itsuka Kotori frowned and said proudly. Why would I do that? I would never pick on a petty man like him. It must be your illusion. Illusion? Rain Murasame rolled her eyes. She wasn't the only one who thought so. Many people thought Itsuka Kotori was doing it on purpose. Especially after Dustless sealed Itsuka Kotori's power last time, the feeling was even more obvious. Seriously, you want me to watch a concert with a bunch of young people? Are you kidding me? Dustless complained in front of the vending machine. Dustless had lived for too long. Although he looked young, he was old enough to be their ancestor. It was normal for young people to have different thoughts. It's about time. Dustless looked at the plastic juice and nodded with satisfaction. Not only were there soft drinks, there were also snacks that Tabichi liked. Bang! The instant he turned around and left, Dustless suddenly bumped into a figure. Moreover, because Dustless's strength was too great, he directly knocked that figure to the ground. Sorry, I didn't mean it. After seeing it was a girl, Dustless scratched his head awkwardly and quickly helped the girl who fell to the ground. Stay away from me, stinky man. Who would have thought that as soon as Wuchen touched the other party's boneless jade hand, the girl who was bumped into by Wuchen immediately screamed as if she had met the most feared cockroach or mouse. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus more chapters, 3,000 rewards plus more chapters, 1,000 comments plus more chapters, 500 automatic subscriptions plus more chapters. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.